So recently, an article appeared on the Warrior Cats website. Part of that article detailed some of the Warrior Cats process in regards to book writing. Specifically, it mentioned that the future Super Editions, Super Edition 17 and 18, would be connected to create a longer story. Now, coupled with the fact that it's highly suspected that the 17th Super Edition will be based on Ivypool, and the increased talk in the article about Bristlefrost, has led many people to believe that not only will the 18th book have Bristlefrost as the protagonist, but also that Bristlefrost will be brought back to life. Now, while this theory has permeated throughout the Warrior Cats fandom, I highly suggest watching Bright Guardian Akira's video on this topic. Not only is it the most well put together explanation of this theory and its reasoning, it also adds its own spin on it, and the whole reason I'm even making this video. And while I do believe this theory does hold some credit, and the reasoning behind this theory is quite good, I have to say, I don't like it. If anything, I think the opposite. As you've probably seen in the title of this video, I would rather Bristlefrost stay dead. Now, this isn't invalidating Bristlefrost as a character, far from it. In the Broken Code, I think she's one of the better protagonists, as she seems the most unique. But at the same time, I don't want her to come back to life. And let me explain why. First off, I like that a protagonist dies. We've only had one other point of view character die in the Warrior Cats series, with that being Greywing. But that was more of a kind of inevitability, considering that he was supposed to die in the first book, and then the second book, and then they decided to just kill him because they already were. And it just kind of made sense at that point. He already accomplished everything he had in life. But Bristlefrost, she died not because she had accomplished everything, but because she didn't. She sacrificed her life to defeat an enemy that was undefeatable. Now, yes, there probably were dozens of other ways you could have defeated Ashfur, but I think this was a better choice. I like the fact that a protagonist died. Right? And not just like die and go to heaven, but died with no hope of returning. I like this idea that death is final, and that there's no cop-out or way out of it. I mean, yes, we've had Firestar die in Book 6 of The Prophecies Begins, but he was a leader. He came back. Bristlefrost didn't. She died and she stayed dead. And if they brought her back, that would kind of invalidate not only her sacrifice, but also the entire climax of the Broken Code. Just completely erase it. And for what for? Because they regretted it? Besides, even if they brought her back, they would have to deal with the massive issue that is Ashfur. The whole point of Bristlefrost's sacrifice is to defeat Ashfur. If you bring her back, you also have to say you bring Ashfur back. You can't say that he's just dead but she isn't. That just doesn't make any sense. Which leads into the follow-up question. How would you even justify it? I mean, Warrior Cats is no stranger to strange things, I guess. I mean, it is a fantasy series, after all. 9 lives, cat possession, cat heaven and cat hell, the void. Warrior Cats can get pretty weird. But full-on resurrection, it's just a step too far. I mean, as I said, 9 lives exist, but it's kind of justified in the sense that, they strip away your life and then they give you 9 lives to replace it. I mean, the furthest we've gotten to kind of weird territory is with Tigerheart, when he got his 9 lives. Because he was already kind of dead, but I guess there's a huge difference between mostly dead and dead. Because by the time this book will take place, by the time Bristlefrost will theoretically resurrect, she will have been dead for many, many moons. So what, are we going to do full-on resurrection, from the grave, or bursting out? Just doesn't make any sense. True, they could just say she gets into StarClan, but would that really be a happy ending? No, they want her to get together with Rootspring. It just seems like something that the authors would want to push. The only reason they would even want to bring her back is so she can give her happily ever after. The only way they could even do that by putting her StarClan is also have Rootspring die, but I don't know, that just kind of seems a bit too far as well. I mean, it's more likely than full-on from the grave she rose again, but I don't know. This leads in to my final issue with this theory, the main issue I wanted to make this video, and that is, if the Erins decide to bring back Bristlefrost, they become contrarians. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, in the Broken Code arc, the latter half of it, they introduced two concepts. First, the void in which Bristlefrost falls into. Once you fall into that, you die. You don't come back. You just cease to exist. Essentially, death is final. The second concept they introduced, which is a bit of contention on the Warrior Cats fandom, is his idea that while StarClan can make mistakes in who to send to StarClan, aka Ashfur, and perhaps they maybe made mistakes sending cats to the Dark Forest, their decision is final. Your afterlife is final. These two stances, as controversial as they may be, are really powerful stances to take. And while I do not agree with at least the StarClan one, I have to admit it's pretty ballsy to take these hard stances on such deep topics. But if the authors decide to reverse course on the idea that the void isn't the end, that you can rescue someone, bring them back to life, then doesn't that invalidate their other stance? If you backtrack on such a deep and final idea that death is final, that you can't reverse it, if they say, oh no, you can simply walk that back, then doesn't that also invalidate their decision that StarClan cats have the final say, that even if they were wrong, they can't change their mind? In this instance, you can't choose one and not the other. Now true, they could also backtrack StarClan's decision. They could have seen the backlash, even though it was more low-key than I think the Bristlefrost one, and decides to just walk it back, change course. But that doesn't really seem very likely, considering the Erin's histories of stances. I mean, there was a couple of years ago, that whole stance about, I don't remember the cat, I wasn't really interested in it, but a cat being in cat hell, and people were mad about it, and they doubled down. So I'm unsure whether or not the Erins would be willing to compromise both of these hard topics. Walking back, death is final, and our decision is final, just kind of seems cowardly, almost? I don't want to go say it's cowardly, it's a bit too far, but it almost is. However, there is a way I think they could bring Bristlefrost back that would work, and that is if she doesn't get brought back. Let me explain. So if they decide, let's say Ivypool and Rootspring decides to go try to save her, like they have that glimmer of hope to save her, and when they try to save her, she tells them that death is final, essentially solidifying their stance that they can't save her. They're telling Ivypool and Rootspring they need to accept her death, accept her sacrifice, and move on with their lives. This would be the authors tripling down on their stance of the decisions they made in the Broken Code, essentially saying, we know you didn't like our decisions, but we made them, accept them. Now, I would really like them to do this, but I see it's unlikely. For instance, doing this would kind of require them to only have to do one super edition. 2 seems a bit far unless they do like a 400 page and then a 400 page. They've kind of been inconsistent how long they want their super editions to be. However, given the evidence that we have so far, it does seem likely that Bristlefrost will be resurrected, despite my not really liking it. So in conclusion, Bristlefrost is probably going to be brought back to life. I don't think she should be. I think she should stay dead. Even though I like her character, I think it's better for the story and the universe overall that she stays dead. But let me know what you think about it. I'm very interested to see the discussions down below, but I hope you'll have a very nice day whenever you're listening to this, and bye.